What's up, everybody? It's James here from the Sawyer Family Reviews channel, bringing you another video. Today we're taking a look at some doll stands you can use to display your vintage collection / modern Star Wars figures. It's kind of a weird disclaimer. Let's get into it and we'll talk about it. Okay, so before we start up on this one, I just want to say very briefly that the products you see in use in this video are available through collectingwarehouse.com. I'll have links in the info section to pick them up if you choose to pick them up. But I do want to say that I work for that company. Getting that out on the table right now. There's been other videos on my channel showing collecting supplies, and I said that before, that I work for this company. But that doesn't mean that I'm doing this because it's my job. I'm doing this because I want to share with you guys some of the stuff that I've seen in use or that I use myself, and, you know, maybe answer a question that you've had to say, well, I wonder what I could use for this or what I could use for that. For me, being in this for so long, with working at the Earth and then Collecting Warehouse and the toy department, there's a lot of things that are just second nature to me. Like Protech Stands are second nature to me. Star cases are second nature to me. But that may not be the case for every collector. Every collector starts somewhere. There may be a collector that's starting tomorrow, and they may have no idea what a star case is. So I just felt like it would be fun at the channel to look at some products and go, this is what this is for, and this is how you use this, to maybe be that first bridge of knowledge for you to understand certain things when it comes to collecting and displaying and protecting your figures, right? So I'm choosing some products here and there and just going, okay, this fulfills this need, and just focusing on like today, vintage collection figures having a problem standing. So that's just what I'm going to do here at the channel. Every once in a while I'll put up one of these videos, and hopefully it helps somebody. And like I said, if it's a product you want to check out, there will be links in the info section for you to head on to Collecting Warehouse and pick them up, right? Okay, all that said. So, Star Wars collecting. This is from the vintage line. This is a vintage Boba Fett. And this is from the 90s line. This is a modern, what they called a modern Star Wars figure, but is now 20-something years old, right? So I collected both of these lines as they came out. I was a vintage, I grew up in the 80s, so I grew up on these figures. And then in the 90s, I was a teenager into my, early 20s, and I was buying these figures. And the best stands you could get for these figures, in my opinion, are the Protech Stands. So vintage figures have a larger peg hole than the modern figures had. I love that noise, that rattling noise. So there's two different size peg holes here. Vintage figures have a larger peg hole, and the modern figures had a skinnier peg hole. So Protech made two different peg sizes in their stands, and they're available in either clear or they're in black. And I'm not going to spend too much time on just Protech stands in this video, but I just wanted to showcase, what a lot of people use to display their figures, and that's these Protech stands. And this was great for the longest time. Now, I collected this modern line all the way up through the prequels, and then I kind of stopped collecting Star Wars at that point. It was too much. I had too much of a collection, and the line was too huge, and I was just really burnt out. So I stopped collecting Star Wars right around the time of Revenge of the Sith. And at that time, they started to do figures that had ankle joints. And so the figures would have like a hinge joint here or a rocker here or whatever. And I was noticing as I was getting to that end of that collecting time that I was having a problem getting these stands onto their feet because the peg holes were much more shallow on those figures due to the construction. They had less foot area to use to be able to make that hole as deep as it was on other figures. Now, I did come back and I collected some of the Saga Legends figures. I really liked this line, and those work just fine on these Protech stands because they don't have those ankle joints. So they can plug right in to those Protech stands, and they still work great. And none of this video is to say these Protech stands are bad. They're not. They fulfill a definite need both in vintage collecting, and in the, I don't know the right term for it. It's still modern, but like the 90s through the early 2000s, it fulfills a big need for those. And like I said, even for like those Saga Legends types, the 5 points of articulation figures, these work great for those. The problem you run into, like I said, is when you get to the point where ankle joints are becoming more and more commonplace. So, for example, this Armorer figure from the vintage collection has those rocker ankles. So they swivel back and forth and they hinge. So there's much less area back here for a peg hole to be deep. So as you can see, these peg holes are incredibly shallow. There's just no way that this peg, let me clear some of these out of the way, that this long peg is going to fit into that spot. You can barely get her to even get onto there. That's about as far as it's going to get. So she will not rest onto there. So the only solutions you have really are to drill the hole out more, which is not something I'm comfortable doing on my figures, or to shave this down some to be able to get into the peg. That's the only solutions that I know of with using this kind of stand. But neither of those options sound all that great to me. So I started looking at doll stands to hold these guys up. Now, this isn't going to be a solution that works for everybody. It's not. These stands are injection molded plastic, I believe, and so they're fairly cheap. You know, they're under $1. Whereas doll stands are a little more expensive than that. So this isn't going to be a solution that's going to work for everybody. It may not fit within your budget, but I'm just showing it to you, and that way you can decide for yourself if this is something you want to explore or not. We have 2 different types here, and both of these are available at Collecting Warehouse. So this one here is actually the more expensive of the 2, if I remember right. Yeah, this is the Kaiser doll stand, the DSK 1075. So it's a very small doll stand. I chose black for both of these because I felt like, for me as a collector, the black stand is what I would go with of the options that are available. So both of these are available in other colors, but black is my favorite, so that's the one I'm showing you guys. So this is a 2-piece doll stand. You get this clip right here. You take it out. You put it around the figure's waist. If I don't get caught up in her skirt there. Oh, there we go. So you'd put this right around the figure's waist, and then you just push it into the doll stand. And then you've got a stand for your figure, right? Pretty simple, pretty easy. Now this one, it sits all the way back. So the figure, it's just a straight up and down. So the figure goes closer to the back of the stand instead of towards the center of the stand. It's also got a thinner wire than the other one we're going to look at. And like I said, this is the more expensive option of these 2 options. These run a little over, as of the time of this recording, a little over $4 each. And I know a lot of people are going to say, well, there's no way I can use that for all my figures. And I totally understand that. This is a case where this would be really good for people that have a more, confined collection. Like, for example, I only collect figures from The Mandalorian as I'm collecting the vintage collection and Bounty Hunters from Empire Strikes Back. So for me, this works because I don't have a huge collection. So doll stands like this work fine for me. I know if you have a huge collection, it might not work for you. Again, I'm just showing you the option. So this other one is the DSP-20B, which is the Plymor stand. So this one's a little less expensive. This one's under $4 at the time of this recording. They're $3.79 each. And both of these have quantity breaks. As you add more and more into your order, you'll get a better break. The differences on this stand is, so this wire is more shaped like an oval to go around a waist a little bit better, whereas the Kaiser one is more like a circle. So this is built more to go around a figure waist, and this is more circular. There's also a bend in the middle of the stand, so that way your figure is a little bit more towards the center of the base, as opposed to more towards the back of the base, like on this one. So we're going to take a look at this Book of Boba Fett, Tatooine Boba Fett here. Same deal. You're just going to clip the waist, clip right around there, squeeze it, and then insert it into the stand. And then you've got Boba Fett on a figure stand. So again, regular stands aren't going to work for these. It's just not going to work. And I feel like most of the modern Star Wars figures are not going to have those deeper peg holes anymore. So if you're looking for a figure stand, I don't recommend the Protech stand anymore for modern Star Wars, just because it's not going to work with those peg holes. If you're looking for something to stand up your figures, I feel like this is your best option, is these doll stands. Both the Kaiser and the Plymor. It's really just a matter of preference as to which one you like better between the 2 of them. The look or the aesthetic or the price, however you want to look at it. I personally prefer these Plymor ones. I like that the waist is more shaped towards a figure waist. I feel like the wire itself is thicker, which is a little bit nicer. But again, this is all down to personal preference. The bases on the Plymors are also a bit bigger, so you'd have to consider that, especially if you have a large collection, as to if that's going to take up too much space for you or how you'd want to handle it. But there is at least an option for you if you're having a problem standing your vintage collection Star Wars figures because of those peg holes, this is at least an option. I would say this is a great choice if you have, again, a limited collection, or let's say you have prototypes or something like that where you really want something more high class to display on your figure. I think both of these options are pretty cool. So that is it for this video. I hope that kind of helps a little bit. If you're looking for a way to display some of these figures, like I said, you can hit the info section down below and there'll be links to pick these up if you choose to. I'll be doing more of these videos as we go along. I'll do one specifically on Protech Stands because I think that'll be interesting for a lot of people that don't understand Protech Stands, which we have a lot of people that don't, can't understand the difference between the vintage Star Wars and the modern Star Wars and the peg hole sizes. Stuff like Starcase videos and what they'll fit. All that stuff will be coming on the channel eventually. So if you have anything that you have a question for collecting supplies in general, leave a comment down below and I'll see if I can help you with it. I guess that's it. Talk to you guys next time. Bye.